23 shows, 7 levels. I have put together this iceberg of the most disturbing TV shows to ever come on screen. We'll start with some uncomfortable sequences, but as we go deeper, things get psychotic. Let's start at the tip. Level 1. The Closet. Jackie faces an impossible choice on playing it straight. Point out gay men or lose $1 million. The series is based on a romance set on a ranch in Nevada. The protagonist Jackie is introduced to 14 suitors and tasked with finding love. However, the show's mechanism is built entirely on deception. Half the men are straight and half are gay. If Jackie chooses a straight man at the end, they'll split the prize money. If she chooses a gay man, he reveals his and takes the entire $1 million for himself.
So, if Jackie falls for a straight guy, they will split $1 million. But if she falls for a gay guy, he gets $1 million all to himself.
Left with no choice, Jackie brought her A game to the swing date, choosing the first 3 guys she thought were gay: Bradley, Ryan, and Gust. She caught Bradley off guard by bringing up his hairdryer. He laughed nervously, unable to defend why he'd bought a blow dryer to the show in the first place. Ryan tried deflecting by acknowledging his feminine qualities while insisting he wasn't gay, but Jackie's awkward smile made it clear he was already counting his loss. With Gust, she kept things simple, asking about his interests while carefully scrutinizing every gesture he made. On the night of the first elimination, the 14 men looked anxiously at Jackie under the dim light, hoping not to be eliminated. She relied on her mental cues for who stays or leaves, and did just that, even though she was no longer sure. When it came to Bradley's turn, she paused, letting the tension build before revealing he was staying, catching everyone off guard in the process. Gust came next, smiling back at Jackie, waiting for his fate. She told him directly she thought he was gay and asked him to leave the ranch, visibly upsetting him.
Jackie, you just reduced your chances though. Hate to tell you, but I am straight.
She continued to pick whom to stay with, including Ryan, solely relying on her intuition until she reached Lewis. Not believing a straight guy would keep to himself that much, she came to the conclusion that he was gay and asked him to leave. The twist was that those who left were never gay. The real gay men among the suitors kept hiding who they were, lying about their identity to be the prize winner. In the finale, Jackie stood opposite her final choice, paralyzed by the fear that she had been tricked. When the chosen man, Banks, revealed his orientation, she was relieved that he wasn't gay. What makes this format so disturbing is how the audience is trained to play along, judging the men on how well they can pass as straight. It reinforces the idea that a gay man's presence in a dating space is inherently deceitful. Playing it straight had low ratings and was flagged for being ideologically offensive by critics. Also, as a where's my place in that show supposed to be? Little Groom. Glenn stands in a tuxedo preparing to hand out roses, but the producers make a choice before he even speaks. The camera angle is intentionally set low to emphasize his short stature. Even before The Littlest Groom aired, the concept had already raised red flags. The original host selected for the show refused to participate. According to him, the focus was on making fun of little people, and he wasn't going to be part of it. Still, production moved forward. That decision sets the tone for everything that follows. The producers bring in a mix of women, some are little people, others are average height, and then engineer situations to create awkward visual gags. Instead of private conversations, sensitive questions are posed to Glenn, and his reaction becomes part of the spectacle.
What do you look for in a woman?
I think probably my past dating life, it's kind of been, okay, a couple months dating, it's off, we never talk to them again, I'm just really looking for that companion, you know what I mean? Pretty much love will follow.
This is where the show becomes disturbing, as it shifts from an already awkward dating show to a full-blown spectacle. While Glenn tries to enjoy the moment as the center of attention, hoping to find true love, the camera lingers on the women discussing his preferences. Although The Littlest Groom presents itself as a twist on The Bachelor, it focuses on raising awareness about people of short stature. Glenn's dwarfism is treated as a gimmick. It frames his choice as a dilemma. Should he stick to his own kind or try to date a woman of average height?
I used to date average-sized women. I'm not saying I wouldn't in the future, but these are people who know exactly what I've been through without opening my mouth.
So he stands there holding the rose, hoping they could look beyond his appearance. The stigma surrounding Glenn was that his life was a circus act to be observed rather than a human experience that deserved respect. The host asked him which of the two finalists he'd be choosing, Zoe or Mika. It was time to pick one of the two women. Looking up at Zoe, he explained that his choice tonight was strictly platonic. He loved her as a friend, nothing more. Disappointed, Zoe hugged him for the last time, wishing him luck before leaving. Now, left with his last choice, Glenn braced himself, ready to risk it all for love. Seeing Mika descend the stairs, he held his breath. His twinkling eyes showed that he had made the right choice. Glenn confessed that she had won his heart. Mika was taken aback. It hadn't crossed her mind that he would choose her. He told her not to be nervous when he gave her a thank you ring, then pulled her into an embrace afterwards.
This ring is not a ring of engagement. This ring is not a promise ring. This ring is to say thank you. That you are such a great person.
The hosts walked in to congratulate them, offering them a ticket for a boat cruise to sail around the Mediterranean as they kickstart their love story. However, unlike other TV shows, Littlest Groom was a one-off reality show and it stopped airing in 2004. While it followed the familiar dating show format, critics and viewers quickly took issue with how the series was framed. Many reviews called it out for turning a sincere dating premise into entertainment, using dwarfism as its hook. Forced intimacy. In Undressed, two uncomfortable strangers are ordered to cuddle in bed and rate each other's bodies. Complete strangers meet in a pitch-black room and are immediately instructed by a giant screen to undress down to their underwear. Once exposed, they're told to climb into a bed together. There's no time for conversation, no time to gauge safety or chemistry. Richard and his partner Kyle were instructed to feel each other's muscles, to stare into each other's eyes for prolonged periods, and to answer hyper-intimate questions.
I'm thinking, Jesus, what's gonna happen now? What are they gonna want me to do? It's like, are they gonna want me to like dry hump his leg? What the
Another couple hugged each other, clearly uncomfortable as their skin touched. Some of these contestants are aspiring actors, models, and influencers who believe this 15 minutes of fame will be the start of their careers. The participants are treated like the game The Sims, where two characters are forced to obey. Therefore, they endure humiliation with no money to be won, no true love found, and worse, no achievement to brag about. The show ignores the nuance of consent, pushing physical contact that their body language clearly screams against. The US version of Undressed was canceled after a single season as it failed to connect with the audience. Viewers labeled it as and shallow, and it focused too much on casual situations. Level 2. The Shaming Ritual. A young woman breaks down on stage during Paradise Hotel after being publicly attacked for her history. Tilda Gustafson, the finalist of the show, was in a hot seat where the rules had changed. The show forces singles to pair up or pack their bags, turning into a means of survival.
The power is in their hands. There can only be one winning couple and a chance to win $250,000. With a shocking twist the winners will not see coming.
Being the last contestant standing, Tilda sits on a stool in front of the jury, a lineup of eliminated contestants, but they don't hesitate in making things as difficult as possible for her. They verbally attacked her for being with fellow contestant Nicholas Vollner. The camera locks onto Tilda's face, capturing the exact moment the game spirals into personal. The other contestants frame her actions as disloyal, cheap, and shameful, ignoring the fact that the show is built around such exact behaviors. Tilda tries to defend herself, repeating that she was playing the game, but the belittling continues.
Oh my god, du är så dålig vän till det. Du, alltså jag skiter i om de ska kasta kulan, hon har inte min röst.
Hur många har du spelat flörtigt med för att kunna pakta med?
Jag har inte spelat på någon känslor. Jag har bara varit mig själv.
Eventually, under the unforgiving studio lights, Tilda breaks. She begins to cry, admitting she feels humiliated and shamed in front of the entire country. This is where the production reveals its true nature. The camera refuses to cut away, capturing her isolation from others. While the show pushes her into these situations for drama, the finale punishes her for participating in them. What is unnerving about this TV show is the hookup culture. They are the fuel for the ratings, saving the biggest emotional payoff for the moment the woman is destroyed for complying.
Det känns för jävligt. Dock, det var jätteväntat. Jag visste om att det skulle bli så här, men det är jävligt förnedrande att bli typ på liksom.
Paradise Hotel was once banned in 2021 due to some misconduct in its explicit scenes and how it objectifies women. It aired again, claiming to be better, but the toxic culture never left. The reunion assault. In The Real Housewives of Atlanta, a woman is suddenly dragged across the floor by her hair during a reunion special. The scene opens on the season 6 reunion stage, where the cast is seated in ball gowns, but the atmosphere is somewhat suffocating. Kenya Moore, one of the cast members, came prepared. Next to her chair sits a golden scepter and a megaphone, props she brought specifically to mock Portia. Andy Cohen, the host, sits in the middle, his expression suggesting he knows exactly what's about to unfold. Kenya proceeded to mock Portia's attempts to have a baby despite not being married, suggesting karma never forgets.
You're talking about Portia and Phaedra when you talk about karma.
I think that sometimes you just have to sit back and let karma take over.
Andy didn't let the moment pass without tipping them over the edge. He probed Portia about karma happening to her. However, she claimed that wasn't karma, adding that she was tired of Kenya playing the victim. She turned to Kenya directly, calling her out as the villain who had laughed at her and other women she felt threatened by, yet still claimed victimhood. Kenya waved her off that she would never claim to be the victim. At the same time, Andy Cohen directs the conversation back to the insults, ensuring the tension peaks rather than de-escalating the situation.
From viewers who don't think that he exists, is he, like your acting career, non-existent?
So funny. Let them try to read me in person.
Portia finally snaps when Kenya calls her a dumb over the microphone. She stands up, and in a split second, the polished reality TV aesthetic dissolves. Portia lunges, daring Kenya to repeat her statement. She did. Having had enough of the disrespect, she grabbed Kenya by the hair and dragged her across the stage floor. The camera immediately captures the chaos as security guards and other cast members try to separate them. Andy Cohen helps Kenya up while Portia is surrounded by others, still screaming that she's been pushed too far and has been through so much.
I'm not gonna sit here and get hit by somebody on TV. I'm done.
What makes this moment so unnerving is how the production allowed the provocation to build until it became physical, knowing full well that they don't get along. The director made no move to cut cameras or intervene, capturing every second of the assault in real time so that no moment of the violence is lost to the viewer. Portia was charged with misdemeanor battery and suspended, but the disturbing part? The show reframed violence as a season highlight, proving that in reality TV, physical assault isn't a deal breaker, it's the climax. Face versus concrete. Blood splatters as a BMX rider crashes face first into concrete during an episode of Scarred MTV, while the show replays the impact for entertainment. Alex Leave, a rider, attempted to clear a massive 24 stair set. The setup frames this as a typical stunt video: the run-up, the focus, the adrenaline. But as Alex jumps, the mechanics of the stunt fail catastrophically. Upon landing, his bike doesn't just crash, it explodes out from under him, snapping at the weld point. Without the bike to absorb the momentum, Alex is launched headfirst into the pavement, his face taking the entire force of the drop. Alex describes it as sliding like a dead puppet across the gravel.
I got scars there. There's a bone poking out where my nose twisted. Little scars on the joints where it just grinded along like a dead puppet, and on my wrist there. I bit my lip off. My lip was inside my mouth, just dangling off. I got stitches and stuff. It's all thick, like Play-Doh.
He detailed the damage sustained: a lip torn from inside his mouth, busted teeth, and scars that required extensive stitching, comparing the pain to 1,000 hot pokers touching him. While MTV slaps a "do not try this at home" disclaimer on the footage, it doesn't erase the damage it caused. A skater named Bruce Treby faced an even greater ordeal. He attempted to skate over a stair rail only to hit the ground in one loud thud, breaking his face and splitting his large intestine. What is most disturbing is that he survived the surgery, but as soon as he was healed, he went back to skate on the rails and landed on his face again. This time he broke some teeth and had to stay 5 months without them in pain. Due to the many permanent scars that came with the stunts, MTV was accused of trivializing life-altering issues as peak moments to lure viewers in. And after 2 seasons, Scarred stopped airing quietly with no official cancellation announcement. Awkward bonding. In Chains of Love, a man is physically shackled to 4 women, unable to move without dragging them with him. In the show, Andy, a picker, had to be locked to a metal chain with 4 women: Nikki, Vanessa, Kirsten, and Amy, where at the end of 24 hours he gets to release a woman and give her the money he feels she's worth out of the $10,000 before continuing with the others.
There are going to be certain times when you must choose which of these women you want to release from the chain. You will know when those times come when you meet the locksmith.
For days and nights, they would be forced to eat, sleep, shower, and exist within inches of one another. And every moment together would come with clanking of metal, tangled limbs, and total erasure of personal space. When it was time to evict the first woman, Andy chose Vanessa, catching her off guard. He didn't like the thought of being in her control, so he gave her the amount he thought she was worth: $600. Vanessa found it hard to let go of the hurt, as she felt she didn't deserve to be humiliated in that manner. The rest were left with Andy, trying to win him over. Lucky them. They had a good time bonding over a meal, but while they savored the beautiful moments, something else was brewing beneath the surface. Amy expressed discomfort with Andy giving other women attention, and Nikki agreed. He dismissed their concern, attributing it to low self-esteem as they ate.
Because I'm one of 3 women in a bed with a guy, and I'm letting him touch me and then roll over and touch somebody else. Right.
I also am interested in why you were jealous, because I don't think she was jealous.
That discussion left Andy thinking of who to evict out of the 3 women, and when the time finally came to release the second woman, he chose Nikki. Unlocking her chain, he explained that he was giving her $800 because he thought she was wonderful and hoped she'd keep going in the direction she was heading. What is the point of this show? Andy admitted that he felt bad for letting her go, but couldn't get over the fact that her confidence level and self-esteem was too low. Soon, Kirsten and Amy were left to compete for his attention. The show then planned a date for Andy and Kirsten to get closer, with Andy openly saying he felt a stronger connection with Kirsten. But because they were chained together, Amy had no choice but to tag along uncomfortably. The date ended on a bad note when Andy blurted out that being committed to one person was boring. Seeing that he was sitting on the fence when it came to her, Kirsten was forced to voice her concern. Amy, mentally noting the crack in their bond, was ready to do everything to make him choose her instead. The tension peaks during Amy's date with Andy. Kirsten watches them kiss, giggle, and catch up on beautiful moments while she's forced to look away. Critics at the time compared the format to televised prostitution, and this moment proves why.
Trying to touch me. No.
The format was rigged to indulge a specific male fantasy, stripping women of their dignity and forcing them to claw at each other for scraps of validation. Chains of Love is particularly disturbing because the entire show is based on erasing consent, proving that if you treat humans like cattle long enough, they will eventually break down for the camera. Critics question the ethics of forcing people into prolonged physical closeness for entertainment rather than genuine connection. And due to low ratings, Chains of Love was canceled after 6 episodes by UPN. Level 3, Silicone Lover. Father and son wheel a doll named Terry to a clothing store as if it were a living person in extreme love. Dave and Lance debate fabric choices and accessories, holding up shirts to the doll's chest. They speak to Terry with a tenderness usually reserved for humans, adjusting his limbs and smoothing his hair to transform him into the ideal man for Shauna, Lance's mother. This is where it shifts from a documentary about relationships into a modern-day freak show, and the audience is left to watch the participants' detachment from reality. The camera lingers on the doll's hollow stare while Dave and Lance act as if it's capable of much more complex human emotions. Even though the show pretends to be supportive, it makes the men look foolish. Extreme Love gently curates these freaks, adult babies, doll lovers, age gap couples, and creates a humorous spectacle of the choices they made. Another couple, Wade and Michelle, found a bizarre way of connecting deeply with each other, playing the role of father and child.
He's my daddy and my protector, and I need him.
Oh.
Anyway, you too.
Michelle dresses in brightly colored toddler clothes, spends all day coloring in children's books, squealing in a bubble bath, and throwing tantrums to get her husband's attention. Wade believes she is his little girl, and like other toddlers, Michelle needs to wear diapers, be fed with bottles, petted, and even punished for going against instructions. This reality series was labeled cringe by critics for exploiting vulnerable individuals. Since its last episode of Season 2 was released in 2020, Extreme Love has yet to air another season. Baggage of existing. Tish, a hypnotherapist, stands on a brightly lit stage behind a set of suitcases, waiting to open the one that contains her private life in baggage.
Welcome to Baggage, where singles reveal their deepest flaws for a chance to find a romantic partner. Well, as you saw, our 3 guys brought along 3 bags, and as the bags get bigger, so do the embarrassing personal issues packed inside.
She has previously held the power to choose which contestants she could cope with, weighing her options. Jeremiah admitting to bad bunions, and Eric confessing to having chronic mucus. The audience laughs, treating these physical quirks as valid deal breakers. However, this focus on hygiene is a deliberate misdirection before the final round. The trap that was set in motion for the show sprung when Trish is forced to present her suitcase. The host, Jerry Springer, frames her reality as a multiple-choice mystery. She's either or a trans woman scheduled for surgery.
Tish has just chosen Jeremiah for a nice date, but the roles have reversed, and now, of course, it is his decision. What's the secret in Tish's big red bag?
What makes this moment so unnerving is the power switching. Now, Jeremiah gets to decide if her identity is a deal breaker. He holds the power to reject her entire history with a single look. Tish forced a smile, waiting to see if her existence was considered a deal breaker. Jeremiah openly recoils at the trans option, commenting that it isn't his style. Even though she is not trans, the damage is done. Baggage successfully used being trans as a tactic to heighten the suspense.
Because you don't want to get into a relationship wanting to have to train someone and feel like, this is how you do it. But yeah, that's probably the main concern.
Aside from viewers complaining that the show treated human characteristics as deal breakers, there was no major backlash. It just stopped airing, thankfully. Manufactured masculinity. In Straight Plan for the Gay Man, a gay participant watches as the Flab Five, a group of straight men, picks apart his identity to make him suitable for their world.
You want to dress like you make a lasagna.
On the premiere of Comedy Central's Straight Plan for the Gay Man, style is king.
They immediately drill him on the mechanics of being a bro, for some behaviors that look alien on his body. He's instructed on how to burp on command, how to dress in ill-fitting clothing, and how to objectify women. The camera captured his discomfort as he suppressed his instincts, chugging beer and faking interest in sports.
Straight guys don't usually collect teacups.
Straight Plan for the Gay Man, a fabulous, kick-ass Comedy Central makeover event, premiering Monday.
What makes this process so disturbing is the constant corrections and being praised when he stops acting gay. Flab 5 frames his self-expression as a liability that needs to be scrubbed away to ensure his survival. The gay man's next quest is a straight bar to deceive strangers. He walks into the space visibly on edge, knowing that any slip in his act will mean he went through all that trouble for nothing. Acting like a straight man is regarded as a victory, even though he was suppressing his identity. Viewers deem the show to be awkward and full of stereotypes that make fun of gay men for entertainment. Straight Plan for the Gay Man only aired for 3 episodes and did not continue beyond that. Forced to watch. 4 almost failed marriages are about to go on a social experiment where each couple exchanges their partners in 7-year switch. Every intimate conversation and late-night confession with another partner was recorded for evidence. The breaking point arrives during these therapy sessions where the original partners are forced to watch edited footage of their spouse with their new partners.
There's something interesting in the bedroom, and he points out it's just one bed.
I'm pretty comfortable with, I guess, 2 of us being in one bed.
In one key sequence, Houston has a tense conversation with Neil about his bond with his wife, Alicia, feeling threatened. The show fixates on his expressions as his marriage struggles. The director intentionally frames the viewing session as a test, where each footage shown to the real couples is edited to maximize the betrayal, showing the exact moments that will hurt the most, and this doesn't exclude role-playing. The show isn't trying to fix the marriage, instead it's capitalizing on their vulnerability and using infidelity to cash in views. The contestants were placed in a house with a perfect match designed to trigger their specific temptations, then film the inevitable collapse. Leah told Houston she wouldn't clean up after him, insisting he take responsibility as an adult to keep the environment clean without being told. Feeling his ego bruised, he reluctantly picked up the broom to sweep, but not without questioning how she runs her home. Without holding back, Leah clapped back that she wasn't going to slave away.
Oh, your mother would clean up after her child. A grown person cleans up after themselves.
It's all about teamwork, though.
Things took a heart-wrenching turn when another wife, Danielle, broke down on screen because her husband had never shown her this type of affection he showed the other woman he barely knows, Rachel. The women's husbands, Eric and CW, met up to discuss how their date went with their switched partner, but that spiraled immediately when they found out boundaries were crossed. CW mentioned wanting to take his wife Danielle to dance lessons, except Eric already did. That act alone brought trust issues to their already crumbling marriage. What makes this show so disturbing is the calculated cruelty of the entire twisted experiment, where real love turns into a manufactured suspense arc designed purely for viewers' entertainment.
An opportunity for these couples to start to use communication to negotiate, which actually later on can be a real strength within their own marriages if they're able to do that successfully.
And at least one partner inevitably fails, leaving the other to pick up the devastating emotional pieces while the camera continues to roll. The US version of this reality series quietly ended with no updated episodes, but continued internationally despite the backlash that made a mockery of relationships and undermined the institution of marriage. You just witnessed vulnerabilities being exploited, but things are about to get so much more intimate. So, hit that subscribe button and let's dive a little deeper. Level 4. Capitalized dysmorphia. Face to face with a 3D avatar of herself, Leo was about to make a decision that will change her forever in Send Body SOS.
Something that I wanted to change but had no control over. It was tough.
This problem won't be solved by healthy eating and exercise. It's going to need medical help.
She remains fully clothed, looking up at the exposed version of herself, spinning in complete detail. Then, the screen reveals a second avatar, the post-surgery version. This is the body she could buy, the one the show presents as the solution. The two avatars, before and after, are viewed by strangers on TV. The viewers weigh whether the changes are worth the surgical risk, whether her insecurity is justified enough to go under the knife. Leah isn't making this decision in private consultation with a doctor, but on screen and waiting to hear what strangers think about her body.
How much does it cost and what is the recovery time?
Generally, I would say a standard thigh lift would be £7,000 upwards. A couple of weeks for the recovery. Because of the location, it can be uncomfortable.
Now, viewers vote on which body they find more acceptable, the one she has or the one she could have. She leaves carrying the public verdict with her body image concerns now validated.
A stranger who has no connection with you will tell you how it is. So I'm here, I'm strangely calm. I just can't wait to see the outcome.
Critics argued it validated the participants' insecurities rather than resolving them, calling it a bad idea. No kidding. The show was eventually canceled after 300 episodes across 4 seasons, with no official reasons given. Naked Office. A group of employees sat around a table in their workspace, forced to discuss how to move the company forward in office. A few days ago, a business psychologist entered this struggling company with a radical proposal that stripping away clothes will strip away hierarchy and rebuild broken trust. Okay. As a result, the team prepared for this particular day for 4 days, hoping to rebuild confidence with no boundaries.
I felt ready for today, which was significant. I felt that I'm in a completely different place mentally than at the beginning of the week.
However, the footage also unveiled a much darker side of the corporate culture. How is that possible? The process acts as a slow-motion grooming of the workforce. Throughout the week, the consultant pushes the staff into escalating intimacy exercises they can't refuse. The employees now step back into the open-plan office under harsh fluorescent lights. They attempt to type on computers and answer phones while completely exposed. It reveals how they have no say as their livelihoods depend on their willingness to humiliate themselves. The experiment proves that with enough leverage, your job, and a TV crew, consent becomes meaningless, and corporate structure can pressure people into doing almost anything. The show was widely ridiculed for offering no business value aside from especially the awkwardness from watching their team leader Mike getting the ringing telephone with no clothes on. Naked Office was not banned, it just ended after its initial episodes, and it's still being seen as a gimmick rather than thoughtful social experiment. Ambushed on the edge. A shopper with no professional diving experience was dropped from a helicopter into the ocean for $200 in Who Dares Win.
We're going to dare someone to be part of the crew. We're going to train them up, fly them out into the ocean, jump into the water, swim over and rescue a victim who's in the water. Take them over, be winched back into the helicopter and whisked off to safety. Now, if they can do all that, we'll give them $200.
He went from buying groceries minutes ago to attempting a stunt that might leave him scarred for life. The host of the show, Mike Whitney, was famous for cornering unsuspecting shoppers like that man, flipping their ordinary errand days into high-stakes experiments. From eating cockroaches for $50 to couples undressing in public for $100 and never getting their clothes back, Mike wouldn't stop pushing these shoppers to their limit. Richie even admitted the cockroach tasted like strong garlic after swallowing it. Ugh. Now, the camera zooms in on another shopper's face who's bargaining with her own fear for an absurd prize. Mandy, a young mother, knows the consequences of landing in a bad spot, yet she couldn't step out of the deal. Finally, giving in to the crowd's pressure, she dropped from the 10-meter tower, almost breaking bones. Mike asked how she was feeling, and with all smiles, Mandy admitted she wanted to do it again in front of the cheering crowd. Who Dares Win was eventually canceled after 2 seasons, 1996 to 1998, as challenges became more dangerous and too costly to ensure. Level 5. Casual Confession. In Mob Wives, a reality show centered around the wives and daughters of dangerous mafiosos and kingpins whose crimes ruined lives one way or another, an already tense outing at the bar turned into something much darker when Love Majowski confessed to her co-stars how she took a 9mm handgun and fired 6 rounds at her ex-fiancé, tracing a perfect outline around his body.
How big is a normal prenup? Because my ex tried to get me to sign a 32-page prenup. I told him to slam the in it.
Without a hint of remorse, she also admitted she had people and once her ex-boyfriend in front of his own mother. She wears these felonies like badges of honor, referring to herself as the Nut, vowing that anyone who crosses her will leave with missing body parts. Love made it known that she was not performing for the audience, detailing a history of real-world violence just to appear charming. The scene peaks by the time you realize the TV show is effectively filming evidence for open police files. Not able to tolerate her violent acts, Love was eventually banned from the show after threatening to kill everyone, including the production team. Even her own stars called her a sociopath.
Love is a loose cannon. The is definitely flipping out.
I don't know what the tell her, except that wasn't too nice.
The moment sparked more criticism of Mob Wives, with viewers and victims' families accusing the show of turning real violence into entertainment. Even after the backlash, the series kept airing for several more seasons before quietly ending. Aside from Love constantly losing it, Karen and Drita were another set of Mob Wives with an eagerness to attack each other. At the restaurant, Drita made it clear she didn't need Karen there, ready to attack. Karen, unbothered by her threats, pointed out that Drita was the one who had called this meeting. Frustrated and pissed, Drita accused her of talking trash only because the security guards were present.
I don't know if I could do this.
You called this meeting.
That's right. Who the you talking about? You.
About you.
Something about it. We can fight.
It was just threats from both parties until Karen called her a dumb, dramatic. Drita lunged at her, trying to push the table aside to knock her off, but Karen acted fast, swinging her handbag right at her. Drita demanded to know who Karen was calling a dumb bitch, attacking again and trying to get around the table to reach her. They were separated by the guards, some holding Karen and others preventing Drita from using shards of broken plates to stab her, escalating the tension.
Every time I see you, I'm punching you in the face. Oh, yeah? That's why you waited for tonight. What's the matter, Drita? You don't want to hear the truth? You called this meeting. You got your jerk-off bouncers right up in my...
Karen and Drita aside, it's particularly disturbing that a platform was given to a person who views attempted as a personality quirk. Dressed as prey. Steve-O and Chris Pontius are nearly swallowed by a great white shark in open water. They were dropped into Shark Alley off the coast of South Africa, a notorious feeding ground for apex predators. The premise seemed educational, but the execution is purely shark. Dressed in realistic seal costumes, they bob in the freezing ocean, joking and performing for the cameras.
All these seals are doing is waiting to at the jaws of a great white shark.
So we're gonna go swim with them? So stupid.
This is the world's dumbest place to swim.
The water around them is dark and calm until a dorsal fin cuts the surface, heading straight for them. The shark lunges, breaching the surface within terrifying inches of the hosts. The water explodes as the predator misses them by a fraction of a second. The camera captures the crew on the boat screaming in genuine panic.
Get Mark out of the water, get Mark.
Steve-O and Chris tried scrambling back to the boat, flailing and terrified while the shark circles back for what looks like a second strike. This moment strips away the reality TV filter. The seal disguise worked exactly as intended. They dressed as prey and used bait to attract sharks, eliminating the shark's ability to tell they were human and triggering the shark's kill switch. The duo's lives relied entirely on luck rather than safety measures.
It really gave me second thoughts about actually jumping off the boat with the great white shark right there. But I'm glad that you talked me back into it, Andre.
There were no divers in the water, no cage, and no way to stop an attack once it started. The setup had only two outcomes: a missed bite or death. That recklessness is what makes the footage hard to watch. The act drew criticism from several marine experts for endangering wild lives. And despite the backlash, Wild Boys continued production and aired similar high-risk adventures with no changes to its safety measures. Starved to live. Dave Nasia lies shirtless before a medical team, insisting he is strong enough to hunt while his blood pressure crashes toward 80/60 in Alone. His ribs protrude sharply against his skin, his speech slows, and his movements become heavy. Despite clear indications that his body is shutting down, Dave is convinced that he is fine. In Alone, contestants are dropped into the remote wilderness with minimal supplies and are filmed as they fend for themselves, relying solely on their skills to survive.
Man, that's a lot of pain. That's a lot of pain.
Every decision taken, like when to eat, when to rest, and when to keep going, pushes them to the extreme. He had hoarded dried fish and sat on a stockpile of calories he refused to eat. Dave Nasia is trapped in a psychological loop under the guise of survival where preserving the food is more important than preserving his own life. Dave interprets his starvation as discipline, believing he's mastering the wild.
Here's my jacket. I am very, very excited about this one. Oh, it's even warm as well. Oh, look at that. It's even got the neoprene in there.
This pattern further repeats with runner-up Carly Fairchild, who's pulled from the game with a BMI of 16.8, clinically severely underweight status, yet she argues to keep playing. The most disturbing part of this TV show is how it capitalizes on physiological collapse by walking real people right up to the edge of irreversible damage and waiting until the exact moment organs might fail. While some contestants tap out from fear of bears, the slow, delusional starvation of the finalists prove that the most dangerous thing in the woods is the show itself. Then, Dave Nasia, sitting on top of a tree branch, finally admitted that his body doesn't feel right anymore. And judging by the constant cramps, Dave feared he might not live to tell his story if he kept denying himself food.
My body doesn't feel right. I'm getting cramps every day and every night. I'm depleting my body of nutrient that's needed.
At the riverbank, he made one final decision: to live. Dave tapped out, hoping to take care of his body this time. Critics slammed Alone online for glorifying dangerous self-starvation, which will eventually lead to long-term health issues just for entertainment. The reality series producers denied these claims, saying medical checks are conducted throughout filming. Alone is still being aired with no changes to its safety guidelines that we know of. Abandoned society. In Eden, Paradise Lost, a community of 23 participants is seen starving, fighting over resources, and splitting into rival groups in the remote Scottish wilderness. The camp descends into chaos as hunger and paranoia set in. A breakaway clique known as the Valley Boys began hoarding meat and terrorizing the others, while desperation drove some contestants to eat chicken feed just to fill their stomachs. Lord of the Flies, but in Scotland, so Lord of the Flies! The rest weep, fight, and try to survive, believing their ordeal is being broadcast to millions of viewers. Unlike typical reality TV, no cash prize or award was waiting for them at the finish line. Their only incentive was the idealistic promise of building a utopian society from scratch. They were selected for their specific skills, from plumbers to doctors, and were handed basic tools and supplies to survive. But in reality, the network had quietly pulled the plug months ago. Their participants are left suffering in the dirt, maintaining a society for an audience that no longer exists. However, the production crew continued filming them, maintaining the illusion of the show simply to avoid breaking the contract, successfully gaslighting the entire cast. Still, it all came crashing down when they finally found out that months of bullying and mental breakdowns were all for nothing.
If we do this, there's no coming back from it. We have to end this show, end this experience, end 4 months of our lives. Just because Glenn has begged them for his life. Come on, get out of this car. Come on, please, guys. Walk off.
Eden, Paradise Lost received lots of criticism from the media, the participants, and the public for maintaining the isolation long after secretly canceling the show, misleading them. Aside from that, viewers pointed out poor representation of women, including some hostile behavior among the participants in the reality series. Women were bullied and called the weaker vessel for doing chores like gardening while the men hunted, and at some point threatened to be starved. Owned by algorithm.
This is where that search warrant was executed earlier today. You can see that black fence still knocked over from the activity that happened here this morning. On this property is Shekinah Church. This church was the subject of a 2024 Netflix documentary that faced allegations of manipulation and was even accused of being a cult.
A family is blocked from contacting their daughter Miranda, only to see her appear hours later in a viral TikTok video dancing in the Dancing for the Devil series. Turns out Miranda threw herself into the heat of constant choreography to show she didn't need any help, but the context tells a different story. Miranda stopped making videos with her sister Melanie and lied that she had a cold to avoid attending her grandfather's funeral. Realizing her sister had noticed the inconsistencies in her words, she finally confessed that there were problems she couldn't disclose.
I don't even know where to start. We're not allowed to contact her, and it's really sad because we're blocked on absolutely everything. So whenever we try to say anything, Like, I even just commented on a video today, instantly blocked.
Seeing that something was off with their daughter, her parents flew to California to check up, yet Miranda didn't care much. She even deleted videos of her sister on Instagram and secretly married someone she barely knew. All these were nightmares to her family, now fully convinced that she was being controlled by 7M. Unlike traditional cults that retreat into the woods, 7M operates in the open as a talent management company. These dancers are allegedly financially dependent and psychologically isolated, yet they are posting daily for millions of followers. Miranda's family video pointing out the loopholes in her character went viral, forcing other families whose loved ones had gone through something similar to speak up against them. 7M received widespread backlash, mostly online, with campaigns citing their manipulation, but it continues to deny these allegations. Over a year later, amidst the backlash, the FBI and other agencies raided properties linked to them and their leader, Robert Shin, on sex trafficking, money laundering, including tax evasion. The investigation is still ongoing, and 7M continues to operate, isolating these dancers from their families. Level 6, programmed to die. Phil was shaking in terror as he stood in front of a gunman to take a bullet for a stranger in Darren Brown Sacrifice. The participant, Phil, who held anti-immigrant views, is in a remote location where a migrant is about to be executed. The experiment had spent weeks secretly conditioning him using hypnosis and psychological triggers to rewire his empathy. Now at the climax, that conditioning is triggered. Phil watched from the truck as the man pleaded not to be killed, his mind racing as he thought about everything he had learned till now. He hesitated for a second before getting out of the car to stand right in front of the migrant, begging for his life to be spared.
Please, Rick, please, 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 please. 5. Rick, please stop counting, please, please, I'm begging you, man. 4.
Despite several warnings to get back in the truck or be shot, Phil was adamant about saving the man's life. What he didn't know was that it was all staged. Then came the shot when he refused to move, targeted to his chest. Phil flinched, waiting for the death that never came. The revelation that it was all a ruse didn't undo the terror he felt in that split second. Darren Brown's Sacrifice proves that with enough manipulation, you can program a human being to override their own survival instinct. The backlash online questioned whether it was right to put someone through such intense fear. Even at that, Darren Brown's Sacrifice remains available on Netflix, but in contrast to the criticism, Phil admitted the experience changed him for the better, making him more empathetic. But does that make it right? Brink of death. Being strapped to a chair inside a sealed glass box while the temperature plummets is the measure of endurance for money. The room's mechanics are set to blast him with sub-zero air and water jets, yet Steve took it all. However, as the temperature drops, his body begins to react involuntarily. His teeth chatter, his skin turns red and numb, and his ability to speak clearly vanishes with the cold stiffening his jaw.
Please repeat the question.
Precious metals are usually measured in which of these types of weights?
This is where it gets truly twisted. A man is freezing to death, his body shutting down blood flow to his hands and legs to survive, yet he is being asked to recall pop trivia questions. What makes this moment so unnerving is, despite his body failing under the stress of the environment, his mind is fixated on money. The warnings came that he was in the danger zone and needed to be pulled out immediately, but that didn't matter to him. Steve insisted he was fine, yelling his refusal to quit.
Steve, I'm getting concerned about you. You're in your danger zone. I'm doing fine. Keep it going. Well, your levels are up, so you need to get them down or you're coming out. I feel great. You're at $9,000 right now. Let's keep going.
I shouldn't even need to explain what happens when people are dying of hypothermia and think, oh, actually, I'm warm now, I'm fine. Like, do not trust this man. The camera lingers on him as he struggles to stay conscious, fighting through the confusion caused by lowered oxygen levels. It's surprising how the show pushes the human body to its extremes in the name of an endurance test just to cash in on human suffering, all while they are forced to answer trivia questions. Though the man is pulled out later, he ends up hospitalized for hypothermia. And the fact that this show didn't pull the plug until it was too late just for the sake of a Nielsen rating was too much for even 2000s era television. Ultimately, another contestant named Brown, who lasted through all 7 levels of the cold chamber, from temperatures dropping to -20 Fahrenheit to air cannons blasting up to 140 miles per hour, sued Fox for the dangers posed to his health. Although the lawsuit never reached a public verdict, Fox quietly settled out of court for an undisclosed sum to keep the extent of their negligence buried. The show was pulled after only a few episodes as audiences and critics opposed a format that dangerously resembled televised torture rather than entertainment. The Deadly Formation. In Dropped, 2 helicopters carrying star athletes collide mid-air and plummet into the remote Argentine wilderness. The aircraft were flying in a dangerously tight formation, attempting to capture a dramatic aerial shot for the show's intro. What follows is the sickening sound of shredding metal as both machines instantly lose lift and slam violently into the ground. This is where the video shifts from high-budget adventure to a horrific documentation of reality. All 10 of them, including 3 star athletes and 2 pilots, lost their lives. And the crash wasn't just a freak accident, it was the result of avoidable recklessness by the TV show, all to get the perfect angle at the cost of safety.
Au loin, on aperçoit une fumée. Des habitants qui assistaient au tournage et des membres de la société de production se précipitent. Il est trop tard. Au sol, les carcasses des 2 hélicoptères en feu.
This level of negligence is exactly why this production was cited as a defining example of reality TV going too far. Dropped was immediately canceled for good, and the footage became primary evidence in a investigation where several production members were charged with negligence.
With impact, it was impossible that there were survivors. They immediately.
We are working together. They are our peers in France, but the investigation is under the responsibility of the Argentine group.
Still, no criminal trial has taken place even years after the crash due to legal and procedural delays. Level 7, the fatal reveal. A secret crush surprise sets the stage for the first-degree in Jenny Jones' show. Scott Amador sits on stage playfully describing his fantasies to a cheering crowd.
B, would you tell the person in private in case he rejects you? Or C, would you tell that person that you're gay and you hope he is on national television?
Then, the surprise guest, Jonathan Schmitz, is suddenly brought out. He has been led to believe that a female admirer is waiting for him, but as he sits down, he realizes that Amador, his acquaintance, has brought him there. The audience erupts into laughter, treating his visible distress as another joke. The host leans into the awkwardness, trying to heighten the tension. And the humiliation did not end even when the cameras cut. Things took a turn 3 days after the taping when Schmitz found a suggestive note from Amador at his home. Overwhelmed by the embarrassment on national TV and the subsequent advances, Jonathan Schmitz purchased a to end Amador for good.
Is absolutely the theme throughout a lot of this, because Jonathan Schmitz could not handle the fact that the public might think that he was gay.
What makes this video so disturbing is the show's recklessness. It treated Schmidt's identity and social standing as mere props for a plot twist, indifferent to the emotional volatility they were engineering. This exploitation showed how far they would go for entertainment. The episode never aired as intended, but the video was used as proof against Jonathan Schmitz in his trial. He was convicted of second-degree and sentenced to 25 years in prison for Amador.
If it wasn't for Jenny Jones exploiting a sensitive issue and then exploiting these persons that had difficulties with the tolerance of such as Jonathan Schmitz.
The Jenny Jones Show was also slammed with a lawsuit for handling sensitive personal revelations with negligence, but the damages were overturned. These TV shows pushed people to extremes for views, but the horror uncovered in documentaries is where old boundaries shatter. So, click on the video on screen to see the most disturbing documentaries ever aired.